What are some truths some parents refuse to accept? The older your children get, the more autonomy you need to grant them. There's a time when you need to let your kids make mistakes, so they can learn from them. Life is pretty short, so if they have a goal, let them go for it. Your kid is an individual. There is a good chance that their interests, hobbies, and passions are going to be different from yours. Support and encourage your kids to be themselves and not a mini-you. Also, for the love of God, have a conversation about how you and your partner plan on raising your kid. My parents had such drastically different, and bad in their own ways, parenting styles. It was really confusing. That sometimes their kids have valid opinions and, instead of interrupting them and pulling the because I said so and that's just how it cards, they could listen to their child and make them feel heard, instead of suppressed. If you judge your children too much, they will learn to hide things from you. Your child's mental health doesn't care about your worries of looking like a bad parent. If you get them help, it will continue to get worse the longer you neglect them. That you are responsible for your kids. Yes, you need to feed them, clothe them, provide shelter, love them, etc. It's amazing how many parents don't want to do some of those or feel like it's a burden to do those. You as a parent are responsible for teaching your kids proper manners and common decency, not their teachers, tutors, babysitters, etc. I briefly worked as a Japanese teacher and I was surprised at how little some of these parents were involved in their kids' lives and expected me to address all their problems during the short few hours I had them for the week. Their children have their own hopes and dreams, their own beliefs. A very good friend is leading an entirely second life to keep her mother from controlling her or belittling her decisions. It's very stressful to not encourage their children to find themselves. Apologizing won't kill you. It's better to be respected than feared. Your kids can have different opinions than you. You can be a parent and a friend. If your kid needs help, speech therapy, tutoring, medication, occupational therapy, it is not a reflection on you personally. Sometimes kids struggle. That's okay. Making sure your kid has all the tools they need to succeed is your responsibility as a parent. That some kids can't help them with some of their struggles, hardships, and that some kids have depression and it may not be a phase. Above all else, you should be the safest person for your child. You should make it safe for them to be themselves. You should make it safe for them to have bad days or bad emotions. You should make it safe for them to exist. Because if you don't make it safe for them when they're a kid, it's really hard for them to find safety in themselves as an adult. Reading this thread made me want to share a quote I heard a long time ago. When they are little, treat the small things like big things. Because if you don't, when they are older, they won't share the big things with you. The small things are big to them. Can't remember that your children may turn out completely different to you. Different interests, different hobbies, different ideologies, different religions. Don't get pissy at your kid because he likes reading instead of football. That we aren't always going to be your baby. You are not always right. Sometimes we don't tell you the full truth for a reason, like it backfiring on us and making the whole situation worse for us in every way, shape, and form. Your kid doesn't ever really belong to you. They are just another human who has their own life. You're just responsible for helping them figure out life. That when kids grow up, they will enjoy spending time with you if you treat them like a friend. They will not enjoy spending time with you if you continue to act like an authority figure or someone who knows better. You can be a good person your entire life and still have a shitty life. This is probably the most depressing. That it's okay to get mental health treatment for their kids. Some parents need to accept that a whole day of shopping with a little kid isn't realistic, and that instead, you just need to do what you can and take them home if they're screaming and crying, especially if they're little. Little kids especially have a limit. They won't be able to handle a full day of shopping for a while. Don't push the kid to the point of screeching, screaming, and crying and expect them to continue. It makes them, you and everybody else miserable. An easy way to get your child to start lying to you is by accusing them of lying when your kid is telling you the truth. Kid says something that is true. Parent, stop lying. Kid repeats the same true statement. Parent, I told you to stop lying. Kid now tells a lie the parent wants to hear. Parent, there. Doesn't it feel good to tell the truth? However, since you were lying earlier, I am going to punish you. That they are the ones who demanded participation trophies, not their kids. They just don't want anyone else's kid to get one. Your words hurt. If I finally hurt you with words one time, then take a wild guess who I learned that from. That their children are dongheads. Oh no, my James would never do something like that. Well, he did, and he's a prick. That children can be depressed, even if they don't pay bills. The fact that just ignore the bullies isn't going to work. Spoiling your kid too much can leave them really unprepared for the real world. They can end up really useless, or a complete a-hole who genuinely thinks the world revolves around them. At some point you need to teach them they aren't king-queen of the world. They need to fend for themselves eventually. That there comes a point where your kids grow up and you will start to see them as peers, sharing stories that are vulnerable, asking for advice. But once you do that, you're not the boss of them anymore. You can't talk about your bad Shrek's life with your adult kid while also ripping on them for not finishing college or whatever. Just because you did your best does not mean it wasn't still bad and/or a traumatic childhood. Source: 26 years/OW. A mom that hates I go to therapy because she did her best. Teenagers need their privacy. You don't need to and shouldn't know everything that is going on in their life. That thing aren't the same as they were when they grew up. I'm so tired of explaining to my boomer parents that I'm not wasting my money on a luxury apartment. $1,800/month is the new norm for where I live. I have an average apartment and am paying average rent. They somehow don't realize that rent is no longer $600 a month. That we are not living in the same economy that they were at whatever age. Teenage girls have real and valid emotions. They're not just on their period every time they're upset. They're not inherently harder to raise than teenage boys. They're not luts just because their body is changing, because they have male friends, or because they're wearing a tank top. ADHD is a real thing. I mentioned to a coworker my ad and he was like, no, that's not real. A doctor tried to tell me my son has it and I was like, no. Paraphrased. I couldn't get into it at the time, but I wish I could have. It's absolutely real and crippling if you don't know how to manage it. Shoot, even with meds and therapy it's crippling sometimes. I'm sorry, little dude. I hope your dad comes around and accepts it one day. That no amount of yelling or punishment will make a child with ADHD into a better student. Shrek's education is a good thing. Even today, there are parents out here who refuse to have the talk with their kids. If they do, there's a great deal of fear, shame, and religious dogma thrown into the mix. They don't know their kids as well as they think they do. Your children are going to grow up one day. They're not going to be your little angels forever. You are not raising kids. You are raising the adult they are going to be. Stop letting them do a-hole things and excusing it because it's cute and they're just being kids. No, you're teaching them that those things are okay. They have no concept of this is only cute because I'm 5. They just think it's okay. Parents seem to forget that a ton of learning to be a human is imitation, trial and error, and figuring it out by trying. It's like they think if I did not explicitly teach them to do or not do that thing, then they did not learn the thing. Oh, they learned. They're watching you, testing you, pushing limits, learning. You have to treat every situation with at least a dash of, well, just letting this one go teach them a lesson that's going to be held to you and teach. Not every baby is cute. Some look like gargoyles and aliens. That giving them attention is actually good for them and not bad. Kids need affection and to be shown they are important, and that does not mean they are being spoiled. That access to privacy is important for teens to develop proper boundaries. That piece of entertainment is not going to change your child into a criminal. I know you don't want your kid to be disrespectful to you, but if you accuse your child of being disrespectful, but your child was not intentionally being disrespectful to you, your child may decide to intentionally be disrespectful to you in the future. Example, if you accuse your kid of swearing and your kid wasn't swearing, that your kid could come out as gay no matter how you bring them up. If you aren't willing to accept, and I use this term lightly, that risk, and you see abandonment or violence as an appropriate response, maybe it's best you don't have children. Your lovable little scamp is someone else's evil little shoot. All of your plans for how you will raise your child and how they will turn out are garbage. Nothing will come close to your plans and dreams, because they are yours, not the kids. If you decide to have more kids, basing how they will behave or act and what they will do on the earlier kid is also garbage. Even if they're twins, they're individuals with their own personalities. That it's their responsibility to raise the child, as they decided to have them and have to accept the things you need to do to properly raise them. It's not the child's fault that they are there. They didn't have a choice. The parents did. Being a parent doesn't make you an expert at everything. During college, I was in a class where everyone else was a middle-aged mom. Whenever I said anything that contradicted them, I was told I didn't know anything, because I didn't have kids. Once I told one of them she was annoying for always bringing up her kids, as if that was gonna change the facts, and she dead-ass replied, "Annoying? You don't know anything about annoying. I have 3 kids. Come back to me when you've dealt with 3 toddlers and then we can talk about annoying." I can't make this shoot up.